Shukamuni is the person who narrated it to Parikshit. Parikshit was a Maharaja belonging to the Pandava clan lineage. And Shukamuni, he was very young, only 16 years old. While his father was an ascetic living in a hermitage in a cottage, Shukamuni was a wandering monk. He did not have any apparel, a piece of cloth anywhere on the body. What does it mean? He did not feel like concealing any part of the body. It was an open life, and whatever he spoke, thought and narrated, it was without any reservation. So it was an unreserved, unhidden, open narration that he made to Parikshit. Only such a narration could be effective for that king, particularly at that time, before Takshaka came and beat him. He had only 7 days. In the 7 days, Parikshit's mind should be completely transformed. All the impurities and stain should be washed off, and he should have a very, very resplendent, very brilliant, luminous spiritual mind. And Shukamuni was able to accomplish. What does it mean? Parikshit also became a Paramahamsa. So here there are 3 Paramahamsas there. Hamsa means swan, and the swan who has elevated himself to the level of free person, that liberation as we call it. So Vedavyasa was a Paramahamsa, his son was a Paramahamsa squared, and Parikshit became a Paramahamsa. So much is the value effectiveness, the message effectiveness of Srimad Bhagavatam. So many of these verses Vyasadeva has written, composed, only to make the subject deeper, more and more permeating, penetrating, wholesome, more and more subtle. Actually, by either listening to Srimad Bhagavatam or by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, what happens is a kind of a prolonged, wholesome pursuit, spiritual pursuit takes place. If it's only a single verse or matter running into one page, this will not happen. So all these 18,000 verses have got a specific purpose we should understand. It is not just bhakti or devotion just like that. The subject is dealt with from various perspectives, and it is reinforced also in many ways. So we have to understand the very purport of the entire exercise, of the entire composition. I told you that Vedavyasa was a Paramahamsa, Shuka was Paramahamsa squared, and Parikshit became one. So in order to bring forth the right content and message and relevance of Srimad Bhagavatam, actually Paramahamsas should discuss the text. They alone will have the necessary involvement, identity and compulsion to make the presentation in the most comprehensive, effective manner. If Srimad Bhagavatam is read and discussed by any and sundry, it will not have the effect. Srimad Bhagavatam itself is a deliverance bestowing scripture. It has to be understood in that manner. One has to read it to liberate oneself. One also has to expose it with a view to liberate the others. Now, the author himself speaks very beautifully as to what is the content and what is the purport of the message and how one has to treat it and go about it. This verse appears at the end in the 12th skandha of Srimad Bhagavatam, in order that all of you will understand what the message of Srimad Bhagavatam is. It's only just the story narrational bhakti or something different. I would like to recite it right beforehand. Even otherwise, I will not go to the 12th chapter for my discussion. I will take only and remain also in the 11th skandha. Listen to this verse. It gives you in a synopsis as to what Srimad Bhagavatam is and what is its content and how it has to be approached by the seekers and lovers of God. Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam Yasmin Paramahamsya Megam Amalam Jnanam Param Giyate Tatra Jnana Viraga Bhakti Sahidam Naishkarmya Mahavishkritam Tachrinvan Vipathan Vicharana Paro Bhaktya Vimuchen Naraha Tachrinvan Vipathan vicharana paro bhaktya vimucchen naraha. How beautifully it is mentioned. I would like all of you to make note of this verse. Generally a suggestion that I give to all my viewers is that write this verse, hang it on your kitchen, put it on the dining hall, keep it also in your bedroom. If there is any other place in your house where you visit, put it there also. Whatever verse you want to learn, and now and then you look at it, and you will find transformation takes place in you. One thing that I wanted to tell you is, while I speak, don't make notes. Because listening itself has to be exclusive, wholesome, deep and sublime. So there should be no interference at all. Just listen to what is being spoken. Allow the whole words with all their impact to sink and dissolve into your mind. If you want to listen to over again, there are methods we can make available, CDs, etc. But the idea is you should listen to it, just like Parikshit listened to. It is not for making notes. Sreemad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam. Sreemad Bhagavatam is actually an Amala Purana. It is a Purana. But what kind of a Purana? Amalam. It has no impurity in it. So many stories, incidents, episodes, anecdotes, dialogues, conversations, presentations, discussions, all these are there. But you will find the one purpose of the whole discussion is to penetrate into the mind of the reader and the listener and purify it, sublimate it. What can touch your mind? Can you tell me? Is there any cosmetic available? Can there be a delicate food which will be able to transform your mind? All these are physical in character. The food we take only touches the body, changes the body. To change the mind, what has the power? Word. Word has the power. Communication, articulation has the power. And there are two ways of getting exposed. Either you see something, read something and understand, or you hear somebody speak. In hearing, there is the additional enlivening, inspiring and invigorating, enlightening force of the speaker, the exponent, which you will miss when you read a book. That is why we require good exponents. Sreemad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam. So this is a Purana which is nothing but purity incarnate, purity embodied. It is just like a piece of jaggery you take. You lick it from any corner. You lick it from inside by breaking it. Everywhere it is sweet. That is why I told you, Swadu Swadu Pade Pade, Swadu Swadu Dine Dine. Day after day it is more delicious. Word after word it is equally sweet or more sweet. So you should simply understand that Srimad Bhagavata is this wonderful purity, sublimity, enlightenment incarnate, embodied. Yat Vaishnavanam Priyam. This is extremely dear and beloved to the lovers of God. I can think of two sections of the society. One section extremely believing in God with a lot of fidelity, loyalty, fondness. Another section which does not believe. You know, my ashram is in Kerala near Trichur, Narayana Ashrama Tapovana. My body also was born and bred in Kerala. Kerala has the distinction of having the maximum literacy. But you know, the majority of the Hindus in Kerala are belonging to the leftist group. It is actually a calculation which will surprise everybody. So we have a lot of rationalists there, the so-called disbelievers. So you are thinking of two sections. One is the believing, the believing, God-loving people. Another is the not-so people. If you ask me, will I be happy with whom? I will be happy with whom? I will always like to be associated with people who are lovers of God. That does not mean all people who believe in God are good and noble also. In the name of God, people are fighting. There are terrorists who swear upon God. What do you speak about them? So it is for everyone to become good or not to become good. You can use God and devotion for the purpose. So the basic point is whether one is good and wants to promote his goodness or not. But nevertheless, I can say, Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam, the people who love God, they generally find the Sreemad Bhagavatam to be extremely beloved, extremely endearing. Yasmin paramaham syamegamalam jnanam param giyate. In this whole text, what is sung is Paramahamsyam ekam amalam jnanam param giyate. Param jnanam means supreme wisdom. What is the supreme wisdom? All are wisdom. Even you are able to know that this is a wheat grain, that is also a wisdom, a knowledge. Wisdom can be divided into two categories, so to say. The inferior and the object-based. The superior and the subject-based. So normally we have 5 senses. With the senses we interact with the world. And the entire world is an object before our vision. So normally our knowledge is object knowledge. Ever since we are born, our senses interacting with the objects all around, we gain only object knowledge. This is one knowledge. That is not the param jnanam, that is aparam jnanam. It is the inferior one, the knowledge of the perishable. When you have the knowledge of the perishable, what will be the result? You will have a perishable outcome. To the already perishing body, with the knowledge of the perishable, no promotion is ever had. Perishability will stand intensified or multiplied. When you are alone, you are alone. When you get married, 2 perishable bodies. When you have 2 or 3 children, 3 more perishable bodies. So you have to worry about not alone you, 5 perishable bodies. So the knowledge of the perishable is not going to liberate you. In contrast, there is something called the param jnanam. What is that? The knowledge of the imperishable. It is not the knowledge of the object, the knowledge about the subject. So in this, the knowledge that is presented, discussed and elaborated is the knowledge about the presence within the body of person, within the human body. It speaks about the mind, it speaks about the intelligence, it speaks about the ego, and what more, the mind, intelligence and ego are functional nodes of consciousness. And this consciousness in its full splendor is called the soul. So it is a discussion and revelation of the inmost presence, inner presence in the human being. That is why it is called param jnanam. Why the word param is used? Because it is transcendental. Don't be overawed by this word transcendental. To transcend means to rise above. Rise above what? Rise above the senses, rise above the objects. Everything outside our body in the widely spread out world is accessible to the senses, perceptible, visible to the senses. So to be above the senses means to be within the body. How many times shall I repeat this, my dear viewers? How many times shall I repeat it? Everything outside the world is within the senses, in front of the senses. To be above the senses means to be inside the body. Our eyes cannot see the mind, nor can the ears hear the mind, hear the thought. There is no mechanism in our body, no organ in our body by which we will be able to touch, feel or involve itself in the mind. So everything inside the body alone becomes transcendental. So the jnana that is discussed here is the transcendental knowledge, the knowledge about the presence within the body. How does he describe it? Paramahamsyam ekam amalam. It is the one that is called pure. Everything else is impure in this world. Everything else is impure. Consciousness or sentience is the only factor that can never be contaminated. See, the earth can be acted upon by water. Both of them can be acted upon by air. And all the three can be acted upon by energy, fire, etc. But when it comes to space, the space is uncontaminable. No other form of existence can ever affect or involve space. This is the object truth about the objects. Now, what should be the truth about the subject? The subject presence is so beautiful, so great and so pure that nobody can think of acting upon it and contaminating it. That kind of a jnana is presented here. That is called Paramahamsyam Egamamalam. Eka means singular. That singular knowledge. What is that singular knowledge? A knowledge becomes singular when you understand it properly. Shall I explain it? Are you ready? I am wondering whether my viewers will really listen to me and make use of the exposition. How shall I know it? Will you start giving me some feedback, saying that Swamiji, we heard you, we understand, or we do not understand? One of the two you should tell me. There must be some communication. Otherwise it becomes what? A unilateral talk. I am not interested in it at all. If I talk, it should be to enlighten you, invigorate you, empower and elevate and expand your mind. That is the only purpose of this telecast. Otherwise, why should I attempt it? It requires an elaborate effort. Production is one, telecast is another, finding the resources for it is yet another. All these are extremely hard. Why should we take it up at all? If at all I continue to speak, it's only with the intention of reaching all of you, particularly your minds and hearts. Otherwise, there is no purpose. When does knowledge become one? I am very good in explaining matters, you know. Maybe you will come to know of it gradually, or maybe you have already known it. This is actually a kind of a philosophy or a presentation which Bhoomananda Swamiji himself has excelled in. You know, every object is perceived by the sensory organ. Where are the sensory organs? In your body. As I already mentioned, the world is huge. It is infinite all around, all around, all around. The infinite world is perceived by the eyes and the other senses. Particularly, let us take the eyes. You can see to any extent of distance, any extent of variety. Even standing wherever you are, you take a circle. All the objects around will have been perceived by you. And this perception belongs to whom? To the objects or the perceiver? I don't know whether you understand me and come along with me. See, I am seeing an object. Though I see an object, my seeing the object, my sight, the sight is mine or the object's? The sun rises in the morning, and I, standing somewhere on the earth, look at the sun and say, sun has risen, I am seeing. I have not gone to the sun. Sun has not come to me, but nevertheless I see him. That means I experience the sunrise. What does it mean, my dear viewers? What does it mean? I am experiencing it. Is the sun experiencing? Not at all. I am experiencing. When I experience, what does it mean? The experience is not in the eye level. It is not in the skin. It is inside the body. That is in the mind level. How do I experience it? With the help of the eye. An image or an imprint of the sun is made in the mind by the mind. So in seeing the sun, what is happening? With the help of the eye, the mind is forming an imprint of the sun in itself. In itself means what? The mind forms an imprint in itself, in the mind itself. So the imprint is not the sun. The imprint is made by the mind. When the mind makes an imprint in itself, by itself, what will be its content? It will be the mind itself. So all the knowledge I have about the objects, when I analyze it properly, it becomes a subjective formation. It becomes a subjective formation. All are imprints in my consciousness. Every imprint in my consciousness is the consciousness itself. Now, do you understand? All knowledge is singular now. Is there anything called object in this world except as an impression in the subject? I don't know whether you understand me. Why don't you spend a little time? I see an elephant. Okay, an elephant is imprinted in my mind. I see a horse. The horse also is formed as an imprint in my mind. I see a mountain. The mountain also is imprinted. I see the sun. It is also imprinted. The sun is brilliant. Other things are not brilliant so much. But all of them are imprinted in my mind. So for me, in my experience, all of them are my own mind's imprints. Means what? Mind alone is present in everything. So where is the object coming in here? The elephant stands where it is. The mountain is where it is. The sun is where it is. The horse is where it is. None of them has entered into my system. But nevertheless, I experience them. This experience belongs to the experiencer. It never belongs to what I experience. When I see the sun, sun is not experiencing me. I am experiencing the sun. So my knowledge is completely myself. It is subsisting on me. Thus, whatever knowledge you have, no matter whether it is of an atom or whether it is of a mountain, any knowledge whatsoever belongs to the knower. It is knower's own imprints alone. So where is the second element or factor here in any knowledge whatsoever? That is why Sreemad Bhagavata, my dear intellectuals and listeners, declares, this is a great discovery of India, that all knowledge when analyzed becomes singular, never dual or plural. There is no plurality here in the matter of experience. When it comes to the mind, all are mind's own impressions. I wake up in the morning and my wakefulness is what projects this world. When I go to sleep, the same world goes into nothing. The world doesn't wake me up. I wake up and I go to sleep. I also project a dream. As the dream is mind's own creation, wakefulness also is its creation. Wakeful impacts and imprints also are the mind's creation. Will you come up and then say this is right? And will you stand by the statement? If you say yes, then also I have a question. Can I trust your word? Can I trust you? This is a question. I want to tell you what is the truth about human life. And why am I saying all these things? To make you have a proper evaluation of your own personality. See, externally we are all unequal. In India we have still poverty. Economic poverty we have, but we need not have psychological poverty. Inner impoverishment we need not have. God is equally close to the poor and the rich. If at all the rich is distant from God, the poor is nearer him. This is the fact. And this is the great culture. This is the great philosophy. This is the great spiritual insight that we have evolved, cherished, preserved, bequeathed and perpetuated in our country for millennia after millennia. This is the truth, my dear souls. See what Sreemad Bhagavatam says. Yasmin paharamaham syamekam jnanam param giyate. It is the singular knowledge which Paramahamsas cherish, preserve, propagate and disseminate. That is sung in Srimad Bhagavatam throughout. Sung. What does it mean? It's all poetry. Poetry in Sanskrit we call shloka. S-H-L-O-K-A, shloka. What does shloka means? That which removes shoka is called a shloka. Shoka means grief. So any kind of a poetic composition, when properly sung or recited, will have the salubrious effect, the auspicious effect of redressing and wiping off grief and agony from the mind. In our ashram, people do come. And one section of the people who come to the ashram and stay and interact with me, with the others in the ashram, they have some grief or the other. Sometimes people with bereavement come. There was a mother. She is actually living in Bangalore. Her name is Indira. Her husband was a school teacher, headmaster. He retired long back. They had a son who studied engineering. He was coming to the ashram, always staying for hardly for 20 or 25 minutes, and he would go. I did find something very strange about that boy. He will not linger on, and he had never taken a cup of tea or coffee from our ashram. He would come, sit, ask me one or two questions and suddenly go. Then one day I asked him, "My dear boy, you seem to be speaking very well. Your language is distinct. Let me know something about your background." Then he said, "I belong to a royal family." And he passed the engineering. He got an employment. Within about 1 or 1.5 years, one day the boy was missing. The mother went in search and she found the son's dead body on the terrace. He had taken poison and died. Can you imagine the grief of the mother? Inconsolable grief. Somehow or other she was exposed to me in some way or the other. So she had come to stay in the ashram. I had interaction, talk, etc. She became so much interested in this subject. So I generally give every year for an 8-day discussion I do. That is also called Gita Tattva Samiksha in Trichure in Malayalam. So all the CDs and cassettes she used to take and listen to them repeatedly. And she has learned hundreds and hundreds of Sanskrit verses. So she used to speak to me now and then. So I told her, "What is the situation now?" "I still have some grief, Swamiji. Whenever I get grief, I remember you, and your feet, cooling feet, come to my heart and the mind." So when I see some children of my son's age, they have either received a call for an interview or they are appearing for an examination, I feel a little troubled. I said, "Indira, why are you troubled? Why don't you call those boys?" You see, whenever I see you, I am reminded of my son. My son is gone in any way. So I have a kind of a parental feeling towards you. Please come home, have a cup of tea, 1 or 2 biscuits, and then go. Why don't you invite them? What is the harm? Your son bodily is not available, but you have the son's memory. And the memory gets focused on these children of the same age. Naturally, you can tell them, what is the trouble? "Swamiji, I should say, but I am not able to say." When will you say? It will take at least 1 year. After all, you are the biological and psychological mother, so it will take time.